Hello and welcome to this video. In the previous video, we were able to connect to a data source from the web using Microsoft Power BI Desktop. What I want to do in this video is to focus on cleaning that data, transforming it using the Power Query editor. So any modifications you make with the original data source can be regarded as transforming the data or shaping the data. In the previous video, we connected to a data source from the web and we did not actually load the data. What we did was we clicked on the edit button in order to try and make some changes to that data. So when you click on the edit button, it gives you the Power Query editor. So what we can see here is the Power Query editor. The Power Query editor inside the Power BI Desktop makes use of the shortcut menus. So it has a lot of shortcut menus that it uses to interact with data. So the shortcut menus could include the right click. So if you right click, you could see, look at some menu here, and you can also have some sub menus. So it gives you more menus and also context related menus. In addition to having these, it also has the ribbon area here. You can see this is the ribbon area. Most of what you can select on the transform tab on the ribbon, this is the transform tab here. So most of what you can select from that tab is also available by right clicking on an item. When you shape data in Power Query Editor, what you're doing is providing a step-by-step instructions to the Power Query editor so that it can carry out those instructions to adjust the data as it loads and presents that data. When you adjust data from a data source, the original data source is not affected. Only this particular view you can see on the screen of the data is adjusted or shaped. The steps that you specify to adjust the data, for example, if you want to rename a table, transform a data type, or delete columns, any step you specify is recorded by the Power Query editor. Once it does that, those steps are then carried out each time the query connects to that data source so that the data is always shaped the way you have specified. This process occurs whenever you use the query in the Power BI Desktop or whenever anyone else uses your shared query, for example, inside the Power BI service. The steps specified are captured in a sequential manner under the applied steps in the Power Query settings pane. You can see here on the right, this is the query settings pane. So any steps that you have specified will be captured in this pane. When you connect to data using the Power BI Desktop, before you bring that data inside the Power BI Desktop, the data types in some of the columns may vary, or you may have different or mixed data type. So as part of the transformation, you can manually change the data types. Let's assume that we have this column here that has mixed data type and we want to change the data type. before we actually load that data into Power BI Desktop. So what you can do, you can manually right click here, and inside that menu here you can do change, and where it says change type you can specify whatever data type you want to convert it to. However, you don't necessarily have to do that because the Power Query editor is quite clever. The Power Query will detect if a column of text should be numbers or vice versa, and it will automatically change that data types when it brings that table into the Power Query editor. So this is a Power Query editor. So before that table was brought into the Power Query editor, the Power Query would have automatically changed the data type. And anytime the Power Query editor does something, it records it under the applied steps. So if we look at the query settings here, under the applied steps, it just tells you the steps that have been taken so far. You can see here the first time we connected to the data source, and then we displayed the information from that data source inside the navigation pane, and Power Query has automatically changed the data type. You can see here it says change type. So these are the steps that the Power Query editor has performed so far. If you want to remove any of these steps, you just click on the X, and that will remove the steps from the applied steps. I'm going to end this video here. In the next video, we are going to connect to another web data source that we want to use in building our report. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.